Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. We got D-Mac, Rachel V. Hill hanging out with you for the next 30 minutes.
I forgot my coffee cup.
Got to get the coffee cup. It can't be a coffee break without the coffee cup. The biggest news coming out of Broncos headquarters, it seems like they've been in the headlines every single day. Sean Payton playing a big part in that. But yesterday was because of the injury bug, and that comes down to Tim Patrick tearing his Achilles, a complete tear. D-Mac, yesterday we talked a little bit about it, and we were hopeful, but it is confirmed he will be out for the entire season. And it just, like, the whole breath, like, I feel like everybody took a big breath of, like, oh, no, yesterday when Tim Patrick went down. And so it's so sad to see the worst come true.
I completely agree. It is a total bummer. We knew it. We sensed it was bad when we saw it happen. We all saw it happen again. Mm-hmm. And I feel horrible for the dude. He's a great guy. And then you put the news of KJ Hamler on top of that, who's got some heart issues that hopefully he can get figured out. But he's been waived by the Broncos. They could always bring him back. The Broncos did do this with Brandon Johnson last year. They just let him go, and they did bring him back. So it might not be done for KJ. But in terms of Tim Patrick, Rachel, because of the cap hit next year and that the Broncos could get out of that relatively easily, this might be it for Tim Patrick on the Broncos.
Isn't that just so sad? I have been so excited for the past 2 years to see what Tim Patrick can do, and injuries. And that's just the game of football, and it is the reality of it. But, man, it makes you feel for him. And I know that KJ and Tim Patrick were living together, and they were trying to go through all these injuries together. And so to see both of their names again appear in the headlines for injury-related things, it just really, like, is a kick in the gut, it feels like.
Wow. Great point by you. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's all I could think about yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, Tim Patrick's going to go home to KJ Hamler. If they're still living together. I don't know if they're currently doing that, but just like, man.
A great point by you. Didn't even think of that. That's, wow. Pretty rough. Top to bottom, man, it just sucks. And I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have on the team, because it's not like they were getting used to Tim Patrick in the first place. Yeah. I mean, I think there were some great expectations of what it would be like if he got back. And this was a freak accident. It had nothing to do with his knee. It had nothing to do with wear and tear. I really do think he slipped. It was just like this crazy. And that field is in great condition. The field is spectacular. So it's just this freakiest of freaky injuries, Rachel. It just shows you how every time those guys step on the field, crazy things can happen. Mm-hmm. There's nothing else to say besides that. There was nobody to blame. It's just a terrible, terrible accident.
Random question. Is the practice field turf or is it actual grass?
It's grass. It is grass, and it's not a blend of turf or artificial stuff. It is grass, but I just hesitated there because it's like really scientific grass. There's a whole heating system under that field. It's not like your lawn. Okay. It's gosh, I don't know how else to put it. It's grass. It is grass, but it's taken care of much different than, everybody except for Mark Schlereth. Maybe it's Mark Schlereth's grass.
Well, I asked this because if you're in the Mile High City, then you will realize that it poured last night for multiple hours. I couldn't believe it. The weather was crazy. And obviously when there's rain and wet grass, there's a greater chance to slip. So I was like, are they maybe going to move practice into the field house? But if they have the ability to kind of control the grass, I assume everything's just going to stay the same.
That's a really, really good question. We'll see how things operate for practice. I'm sure they're going to look at everything and make sure, there was nothing kind of fishy going on, which I would highly doubt. But it was wet. It rained like the whole night. It was raining this morning. I think there's going to be some wet butts out on that field today if people are sitting there. We'll see. And it's been kind of cool too. So we may have some curious conditions out there today, Rach.
I know. I was thinking about that last night. I'm like, are they going to move practice? Because I just can't imagine wanting to sit on grass and, like you said, wet butts over there. Of course, the fans have been great going out there, but we'll go back again to yesterday.
Well, I'll tell you this though, really quick. I mean, this has happened before where fans show up for training camp and it gets canceled or moved inside. And Rachel, that's kind of the way it goes. That's just they don't do anything extraordinary just because there are fans that are supposed to be there. Teams do just cancel availability to fans if need be, and that has happened in the past. They won't hesitate to do that. They don't go to extraordinary circumstances just because the fans are going to be there. They always take the safety of the players into mind before anything.
True. We talked about Tim Patrick, how this could possibly be the end for him in a Denver Broncos uniform. I just want to say I'm so happy that he got paid when he did. I feel like there was a lot of talk about like, oh, like why are you paying Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick and like all of this stuff? As just a human being to human being, I'm so happy that he got paid when he did because that's life-changing money at the same time. And obviously when you go through 2 injuries, that's just tough.
It's $20 million and no play on the field.
Yep.
Wow.
I know.
$20 million the Broncos are paying for a player who will not take 1 snap in 2 years.
Yeah.
And that is just the way it goes. So good for Tim. Yeah. I mean, money will never be an issue for the rest of his life. As long as he's smart with it. You only have to pay me $20 million once, Rachel. I'll make it work. Yeah. And but from a Broncos perspective, I mean, what a bummer, man. I mean, and then you go back to the deal itself that George Payton put together when he signed up Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton, and now that's kind of bitten you in the butt, as well as the Russell Wilson deal. We'll see how that goes. Doesn't look great right now. And you pay Justin Simmons a ton of money. And he seems to have justified it. And Patrick Surtain is
about to
steaming down the tracks. So again, it's just like this, but this is the downward spiral, Rachel, of why teams don't make playoffs because it just doesn't break their way or they spend money in positions that they probably need to spend in better places. It's always that big, huge risk when you make that decision. And for Tim Patrick and the Broncos, it just has not gone the right way.
James Merrillat did an article at denversports.com saying, don't do the same thing you did last year when this happened. Go out and find another wide receiver. Do you think that they'll try and find another quote unquote big name wide receiver or see what's going on in the wide receiver room after camp?
I just don't know. I don't know the market well enough to understand who's out there. I think the teams are constantly looking at players, period. I think they look at free agents all the time. I mean, is James insinuating make a trade for somebody? I don't know. I don't know what he's. Well, I don't know specifically to what he's referring to or what he thought they should have done last year specifically. I mean, it's easy to just not to rip on James too much, but it's pretty easy just to say, well, go do something without saying, well, what's the specific thing you should do? So I would challenge James if he has that idea. I mean, give me 3 or 4 names. Like, who are we talking about here? Who
interested in?
I mean, don't forget, Rachel. Now they have, I think, 10 or 11 guys who are wide receivers still on the roster. Yeah. And how Tim Patrick was going to fit in, I don't know. I mean, good thing you didn't trade Courtland Sutton. Now the role Courtland Sutton went from being the 4th wide receiver to we'll see with Jerry Jeudy, but that is wild. Because with Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, and Mims, you may have had an argument that Courtland Sutton would have been the 4th guy. Well, without Tim Patrick, he may jump from the 4th guy, Courtland Sutton, to the 1st guy to fill that role. So we'll see.
KJ Hamler, will he ever be in a Broncos uniform again?
I would be surprised.
Me too.
I thought he was even healthy. I thought it was going to be tricky for KJ Hamler. Yeah. But he does possess a skill set of speed that nobody else has. But what good is that if you can't get on the field? I mean, if he doesn't have his speed, there's just nothing that special about KJ Hamler. With the speed, there's a lot of special things about KJ Hamler. It's different than Courtland Sutton, who's just such a big receiver And we saw this with like receiver Brandon Marshall, who wouldn't necessarily run past guys, but could catch balls in traffic, could catch every pass you can think of. But KJ's whole game was running past people.
Yeah.
You know, getting the speed was everything for KJ. So I don't think we listen. I hope we do. I hope we do see KJ with the Broncos again. But I'm not holding my breath, and I think that's a bummer. I really like KJ. I love Mama Hamler. There were so many good things. I loved his story about just, you know, being strong, talking about his mental health, which was in a tricky spot. So there's a lot of things I really like about KJ Hamler, and I hated hearing news like we did yesterday. Yesterday, wow, what a bummer yesterday was, huh?
I know. You just like you think back and you were like, oh, the first hour of practice, you were like, okay, like everything's going well. Russell Wilson looks pretty decent. Things are fine. Boom, drastically changes. And then for the entire rest of the afternoon, it was just unfortunate news.
It was a bummer. You could feel it. It just was freaking sad.
I know.
So,
let's hope for no more.
Okay, you know, you just, you know, and then it's just, you take a deep breath, and I mean, what are you supposed to do? You know, I mean, this is just, and we talked about it on Coffee Break. Well, people get injured every year.
All the time.
It's going to happen. And you just hope an injury is just, with Tim Patrick was so severe on something so benign, something that looks so harmless.
And I think too, it was so hard because he knew right away.
Right.
He yelled out, or I won't say an explicit. Can you say explicit?
I can't say it. I can say it, but I'm going to let you struggle with it. I'm enjoying watching you try to say expletive.
Expletive. I could not get it to go. Anyways, it's a Tuesday.
We got the bacon glitch. That was the bacon glitch.
She aired out right there. He yells out obviously a curse word. I still can't say it now. I've thought too much about this word. And you just knew right then and there. And Javonte Williams is over there. Russell Wilson is over there. Cortland Sutton was checking in too. And I feel bad for Javonte Williams a little bit too, because I'm sure that plays a little bit of a mind game with you when, you know, somebody you've gone through rehab with all of a sudden goes down. I don't think that can be just super easy and something you brush off.
I think, you know, I was trying to figure out what was wrong with Russell Wilson yesterday, because he did not actually have a great practice. But Orlando Franklin pointed out very accurately, everything seemed to go downhill or not great for Russ after that injury. And I was like, oh my God, duh, I'm an idiot. Yes, of course. You know, here's a guy that's very close with Russell Wilson. They've spent a ton of time together, both on and off the field. So I'm willing to, for yesterday, and it didn't hit me right away. It should have, but it didn't. Yep. And I'm going to give Russell Wilson a complete pass on yesterday, because that must have been devastating to watch a buddy of yours go down like that.
So hard.
So I'll let it go, because it wasn't. The rest of practice wasn't actually great for Russell Wilson. There were some quirky moments, so I'll let that go. But you know, it is true, Rachel. Overcoming injuries is a core part of being a championship team in football. Gotta do it. You're gonna have it every year. You hope it's not, you know, some of the more higher paid players, but geez, we've seen everybody who's meant something to the Broncos get hurt. I mean, like, nobody has been left unscarred. We've lost left tackles, pass rushers, every receiver, quarterbacks. It's crazy. Like, everybody gets hurt for the Broncos.
It's so sad. The Broncos just continue to be in the headlines. It's crazy. Well, first it's Sean Payton, right? And then there's Aaron Rodgers, the Jet stuff that just continues to keep the Broncos in the headlines. And then you have this injury. For you, what's been the most surprising thing as we get underway for day 6 today?
Javonte Williams has been the most surprising, like how good he's actually looked.
I like it.
So that's to me, that's been the most surprising, that in a good way. I've also been surprised how much more confident Montrell Washington looks returning punts. I mean, I thought that dude was like toast, and he is their best punt returner right now. It's clear watching him catch the ball, judge the punts, do what. It's not even close that
Mhm.
he's the best guy out there for that job right now.
We were watching him at the end of practice yesterday as we were getting huddled over to the podium, and Andrew Mason says, yeah, but it's probably a short lease with Montreal, Washington. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Maybe, but somebody's got to prove they can do it better. That's all.
Sure.
And so, okay, fine. But I'm not part of the Montreal, Washington fan club. I'm just killing you with truth on this one. He's just out of the 5 guys that they've got back there, Surtain not being one of them, but out of the 5 guys back there, he by far looks the best. I know they want that to be Marvin Mims, okay? I understand that. But, man, life comes at you fast as a rookie. Yeah. And I just don't feel confident as a rookie that you should put that kind of pressure on Mims. I think what they probably should do, Rachel, is keep Montreal, Washington, and work Mims into it. And just don't know. That was a problem with Montreal last year. They just dumped everything on him, and it just was like a mess. Well, now he has all those reps. So despite the struggles he had, and he had plenty last year, but you get past those struggles, Rachel, and what's left is actual experience. Now I have experience doing this, and I've worked at it for a full year. I've worked at it in the off season. I've been through it, and I'm a lot better with it. So I think you just got to be fair. So just to say, well, he wasn't great last year, that sort of looks past all the work that he's put into it during the offseason, OTAs, minicamp, everything. The guy's been taking punts every day for months. Yeah. I mean, that's all he's been doing. So, and he looks good doing it. I don't expect Mims to be on that same level because in pro football, the ball does go higher. It does go further than in college football. How many punters, Rachel, come from college football to the pros every year? 1, 2, maybe, right? You want to talk about a hard job to get. How about trying to be a punter in the NFL? Because the guys that can do it, they stay there forever. For good reasons. They're not going anywhere. So you see the elite of the elite with punters, and there's a reason why they're there, because they do have tremendous hang time, and you don't see punts like that in college. You don't, because you don't face punters that good, period.
That might be one of the hardest jobs to have or to try and, become when you're in college, because you're right. I mean, there's not very many of them, and essentially they last forever. I mean, look at how long, and I mean, same thing for a kicker too, really. I guess that one's a little more because
well, first of all, no team carries 2 punters or 2 kickers. They don't. So there's only 32 kickers. There's only 32 punters who are active. So it's not like quarterbacks where teams have 2 or 3. Yeah. So say every team has 3 quarterbacks, including practice squad. Well, you're talking about 96 quarterbacks, Rachel. 96.
Compared to 32 punters and kickers.
Right. And punting is a position you don't get injured. So if you can do it and you're in, theoretically, but theoretically, if you're really good and you're 24 and you don't get injured and you stay in shape, why couldn't you do that job for at least 10 years? So you got to figure there's 32 jobs, and I'd say 90% of them are with guys that are in the middle of a 10-year career. So to break in as a punter it's brutal. It's hard.
So funny how all of a sudden we just got down this path of punters and kickers, and we're like, wow, there's so few of them.
Well, and that's about special teams. So that's why special teams, at the end of the day, Rachel, I bang the drum, just make it simple. They're giving you the ball. Take the ball. Don't make any unnecessary risks, and they're just better. Special teams guys, punters and kickers, are better than they've ever been, and the result is it's more difficult to return kicks and punts, but it's easy to make mistakes if you're just forced to do it.
Very, 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 very. My other question for you is the Frank Clark thing yesterday. So, of course, Frank Clark wasn't out there, and Sean Payton said it was they asked him if it was excused or injury related. I'm confused on this whole Frank Clark thing.
I know what it is. I did some digging with some birdies earlier today. He's sick. So is Riley Moss. And I really just don't know why Sean Payton just didn't come out and say they're sick. They were sick.
I thought he was in trouble. Like,
well,
the way Sean
right.
Payton was like, it's a I'll talk to you later kind of thing. I was like, what?
Right. And good pickup by you. I had that same conversation with some folks behind the scenes, and it did come across like they had broken some team rules, or was that. But I was told unequivocally today that they were just sick. That's it. There's nothing else to look into. But you're not wrong. The way that it was put was like, oh, they did something wrong. And it's a young, I mean, maybe it's a vet day, but having a vet day after an off day is unusual. But getting sick isn't unusual. So if you're sick, you're sick. So that's what I was told it was, Rachel, that Moss, and it was a rookie. He's not going to take any vet days. So that's what I was told. So whether I was lied to or not, I mean, I guess I could have been, but it definitely felt weird the way it was talked about, like as if they did get in trouble.
True. Yeah, I was very confused by that. And of course, the only thing that comes to my mind is I feel like we've kind of started to see Sean Payton, has an effect on some of what is being said at the pressers. Not that they're not honest, but it's very like closed mouth, tight lips type responses that we're getting. And Frank Clark just got up there and was like, we're going to tell you everything about me. And I was like, did he get in trouble for something he said or do something else? That was my immediate first thought. So I guess if you're sick, you're sick. It's back to school time. Summer's over, D-Mac.
Yeah. When's your vacation?
5 days and counting. I'm so ready for it.
Well, I mean, Rachel, a girl can't expect to just go to Hawaii for 10 days and not go to Alaska less than 3 months. What is the time difference between your last day in Hawaii and your first day on the Alaskan cruise?
It's a good question. I got back from Hawaii so technically, if we just think about my vacation time that I had because of the 4th of July, I came back to work on July 5th.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because we had off July 6th. July 6th, we had the 5th off.
So exactly a month.
Well, listen, you just did amazing. It was a hard month, and
it was a hard month.
It was a hard month. It was a very hard month of work. You need a break.
I'm going to take my 7
days
and enjoy it.
Yes.
Okay, that is going to do it, though, for Coffee Break, you guys. We are headed out to practice. We will definitely do our recap over on social media, so make sure you follow us over there. And we're back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. for another episode. We will see you guys then. Bye, everybody.